Mr. Prime Minister of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Prime Minister of Belgium, Mr. President of the Commission, Mr. Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, I will read out my speech. With one exception. I want to congratulate Prime Minister of Belgium. It is his birthday today. He became 50 years old. So, not in the Chinese terms, but according to our norms, he is becoming a wise man. Ladies and gentlemen, today's EU-China summits take place in an economic and political environment which is characterized by truly global changes. Whether we discuss trade, economic cooperation, or financial markets, development policy, climate change, or security issues, none of these areas are of a sole national or bilateral nature. All of them have to be tackled globally. There are no alternatives anymore. The world is our destiny. Ernest Hemingway said once, "No man is an island, he is a part of the main." So, in some way, no country is an island anymore. We are part of the main. Today, WTO, the G20, and specific subject-oriented worldwide conferences constitute the fora where future developments are initiated. The growing interdependence of business and policy relations require, at the same time, an increasing need to regularly exchange views and to bilaterally search for common interests and compromises, which can then be followed up in a multilateral context. That's why we are here together. That's why I'm grateful for your invitation to address this business summit. That's why China and the European Union, more than ever before, need close, trustful, constructive, bilateral and strategic cooperation. But these are not the only reasons. As two of the main economic powers in the world, we do not only share common interests, but also common responsibilities toward each other and our partners. Without China and the European Union, global compromises are hardly possible in all the political areas already mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, during the last 2 years, we all experienced a dramatic crisis in the financial markets, which also had an effect on the state of the global economy. Today we can say that both China as well as the European Union with an historic rescue package of 750 billion euros and a parallel, gradual, differentiated and growth-friendly fiscal consolidation, that both China and the European Union have done their homework well. These measures avoided a major crisis and a recession as in the 30s. Our European economic recovery is fueled in 2010 by domestic demand. The contribution of private consumption and private investment is higher than inventories and net exports. Our recovery is uneven, but it is due to the reform programs in some of our member states. Their deflationary policy is temporary and lays the ground for further growth. So, we were considered at the Toronto summit of the G20 a few months ago as the patient of the world. We have still problems, but the patient is recovering quickly. Most member states and the European Commission are now working hard on further reforms aimed at strengthening fiscal sustainability and competitiveness and enabling us to deal more effectively with financial difficulties. We are working on a real economic governance for the Eurozone and in the European Union. We are taking measures which were unthinkable 6 months ago. We draw all the lessons from the crisis. The crisis is a challenge, but we draw the lessons from that crisis. In which area should the EU and China discuss and launch political measures to stimulate growth? Let me just list 4 examples from the EU perspective. And I'm glad that you refer to several of them in your joint business declaration of today. First, steady growth requires innovation. We should both do the utmost to create an innovation-friendly environment for our own businesses as well as for foreign investors. As President of the European Council, I will make innovation a central topic during the meeting of the EU Heads of State and of Government of the European Council in December. The objective is to reach a common understanding on various innovative measures, for example, how to better use public procurement, which represents 17% of the EU GDP for innovation. Secondly, I fully agree with you that we should promote an exchange of talents between Europe and China. We can only profit from this regular exchange of our best expertise. Third, steady growth also depends very much on the creation of a bilateral and worldwide level playing field for industries competing internationally. This includes undistorted competition as well as an open and transparent market for investments. And even closer, and multilateral cooperation in this area between China and the EU would indeed be a strong signal to the world markets. And fourth, but certainly not the least, the G20 framework for growth should be a key instrument to foster economic policy cooperation at the global level. As major economies, China and the EU need to do their part to achieve the agreed objectives for strong, balanced and sustainable growth. This includes credible medium-term fiscal policy strategies, contributing towards a reduction in deficit and debt ratios. This includes appropriate exchange rates. This includes a sharp focus on pushing forward structural reforms. Ladies and gentlemen, in a globalized world, in modern societies, economic growth can no longer be an objective in itself. We spoke about at the ASEM summit of yesterday and the day before yesterday. Growth has to become sustainable. And let me recall the conclusions of the ASEM summit from yesterday. And I quote, "Leaders considered ways to further advance the common objectives of economic development, social cohesion, and environmental protection. The 3 mutually reinforcing and interdependent pillars of sustainable development leading to greater human well-being." With these 3 pillars, there is a lot of convergence in economic development, in the models for our society, a lot of convergence between the EU and China. The 3 pillars are the pillars of Europe, and they are becoming the pillars also of China. 2 areas where a strong link between political and business interest is obvious and close cooperation is crucial. 2 areas in which the EU as well as China are committed, and those 2 are climate change and energy supply. The already existing climate partnership and our common energy dialogue already are important tools of bilateral cooperation. The EU highly appreciates the fact that China hosts crucial climate negotiations in the run-up towards the Cancun conference in December. A successful outcome of this conference will be of utmost importance to our environment. Prime Minister Wen Jiabao, President Barroso and myself will touch upon this important topic in our meeting this afternoon. The European Council of February 2011 will be devoted to energy policy, especially energy security, energy policy in a world of growing scarcity. To conclude, one can already see from this exemplary and telegraphic list of common tasks and challenges that China and the European Union have a lot to do together. Your presence in Brussels today and our upcoming meeting this afternoon shows even more the importance that the EU-China relations remain strong, trustful, and a functioning flashlight. Thank you.